Hello, BookTube. Just recently, I was forced to dine on a little crow because this channel did indeed reach 18,000 subscribers. When I said over and over again that that would never happen. It somehow did. We somehow reached 18,000 subscribers. So I wanted to make this video for two reasons. One is practical and one is personal. The practical is to do what we do all the time at a number milestone like this. Even though I'm the first person to say that these number of milestones shouldn't matter. It should be the community that you're building and the kind of stuff that you're enjoying that dictates whether or not you're a successful channel, whether or not this is worthwhile to do. Nevertheless, numbers do have a kind of totemic appeal, and every time we pass a borderline like this, we do a Q&A on this channel. I have no idea why. I really have no idea why. I talk about myself all the time on this channel. I do Steve streams all the time on this channel. You would think that you wouldn't have any more questions, but I'm always wrong about that. When I assume that you don't, you do. So I wanted to make this video to call for questions that I'll see if any accumulate. Maybe you are out of questions. It would be only reasonable if you were. I'll see if any accumulate, and if they do, I will answer them on the weekend. With the usual caveats. The usual caveats about questions on this channel. I guess since we're talking about a subscriber milestone, it makes sense that there might be people watching who are new to this channel and who might not have gone through an 8,000 video back catalog to find out what those parameters are. So we could quickly go over them here. Number one is something that I always say, even though I never need to, which is no gotcha questions. I will ignore gotcha questions. You'll simply be wasting your time to do it. So, the most popular, it hasn't happened that often, so I shouldn't say most popular, but the kind of gotcha question that has occurred most often in these kinds of videos, the ones that I simply delete, I simply ignore them completely, is for a person to ask a question in a language other than English, including in a dead language. But there are other kinds of gotcha questions, what do you think about such and such when you know that such and such was a pen name in the 18th century and you're testing to see whether or not I know it too. Things like that almost never happen on this channel, but nevertheless, it forms a parameter. A parameter number two, another parameter would be no sacrament of confession. No long comments. I'm going to read every comment on camera before I respond to it. I'm not picking through them. I'm not underpaying a mod to pick through them. I'm doing it myself. So your question should not be 4,000 words long. And if it is, be prepared for me to mock you on camera, because that's exactly what I'm going to do. That is unacceptable when it comes to something like a rapid-fire Q&A video. Along those lines, very similar, another parameter would be, don't ask a question for a Q&A that is a personal one-on-one discussion here over wine and calzones. Using a Q&A video in which I'm trying to get through hundreds of questions to ask me something like, thoughts on Edmund Spencer? My thoughts on Spencer aren't something I can just rattle off in a fraction of a second. Yeah, Trenchant. Man's inhumanity to man. I cried. We'll see it more times than cats. Now, Edmund Spencer is a big subject. Thoughts on Cervantes, big subject. Thoughts on Europe, as I got one time years ago. Someone said, thoughts on Europe. It'd be better if you didn't ask questions like that, because not only am I not going to answer them, in this case because I can't in the time I have, but I'll probably also mock them. And that, again, doesn't happen very often. These things don't happen very often. So the very, very basic parameters like that. Other than that, nothing. No other parameters. There's nothing you can't ask me about. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them, and I will answer them on the weekend. And with the final parameter being, ask them in this video. Ask them in the comment section of this video. That has happened many times, where I will put out this call, and invariably a dozen people will email me and say, hey, saw your call for questions, here's mine, in my email. Even though in the last 20 of these things that I've done over the last 6 years, I have said very specifically, ask it in the comments section of this video. That's where I'm going to look for these things. I will see your question in my email. I might even think that I want to answer it, but I won't remember. And you won't have any reason to have high dudgeon, because this is where I told you to leave the question. So if we can manage those parameters, that's not much. The first three don't really apply. They almost never happen here. It's the last one that really matters, which is where to do it, which is here. If those questions accumulate, I will answer them on the weekend. That's the practical thing that I wanted to say. The other thing that I want to say is personal. And it's going to get a little bit syrupy, just for a little bit, and then I'll ring off. I don't plan on this being a long video. But, you know, just the other day, I forget what actually provoked it. In this instance, I don't think it was an email. I leave my email on every video. I encourage all of you to email me about anything. I would appreciate it if you would keep the emails brief. If you write me a 5,000-word email, I am going to ignore it. And I would also appreciate it if the emails weren't fact boy stuff, where you're taking a break from your study, Carol, you're walking down the hall to the vending machine, you're putting in coins and just pressing the button of the thing you want. So sending me an email in which you say, you know, hi, thoughts about the Protestant Reformation. Well, or that's not a friendly email. That's not an email between friends, which is what I want. That's why I leave my email on every video. It might have been an email, but I don't think it was. I think it was a comment on a video. I'd have to comb through them. I don't rewatch my own videos, so I'd have to go through. But at one point, a couple of weeks ago, just a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, a week ago, I got a bunch of comments at roughly the same time about a whole bunch of different things, but with the same. They're all from a bunch of different people, but they were all with the same tone, and the tone was wonderful. The tone was people who get my sense of humor. People who just like spending time with me. They don't need me to be perfect. They don't need me to think they're perfect. Just, they get me. You know how it is when you have a friend and they just get you? That's been, it's been a bit of a problem for me in my life. It's as I imagine it is with everybody, it's difficult to find something like that. And even more difficult to find it online, where there's such a temptation. I see this in comments that I get and delete on this channel on a fairly regular basis. Not often. If it were often, I would rethink this channel, but it's not often. But I do get them regularly. Comments that are just bunker buster bombs dropped into the comments field of something that you don't think is human. You don't think they're real. You don't think they walk around or walk their dogs or would ever invite you over here for wine and calzones. You're certainly not imagining that you are nuking a friendship before it can even start. You're not thinking anything like that. This is just a thing online. It looks human, but I don't have to treat it that way at all. Online culture encourages that kind of attitude, and I do get comments like that, but the batch of comments that I'm thinking of were hilarious because they just got me. They didn't agree with me. A couple of them even went so far as to memeify me, but they got me. And when I saw that, it struck me. And I thought about it for a while that day and realized that the reason it struck me was only quantity, not quality. That quality of people, of us just getting each other, of just having fun, having this ongoing bookish conversation, that's common on this channel. It isn't that little batch of comments was the only time it had ever happened. No, the reason that it struck me is because it was like 4 or 5 of them were happening all together from different people in order to draw my attention to the fact that this is a common thing on this channel. It's incredibly moving. I don't mean to get all syrupy on you, bro, but it's incredibly moving to have that in my life. I've always said, for years and years, I've said that I'm very grateful to have BookTube in my life. And I am. And when I say that, I'm usually thinking about other channels and other BookTube creators. I watch a ton of BookTube. It's by far a thing that I watch the most. All these different bookish conversations done in a million different ways by a million different kinds of readers. And I have also come to know some of those people. Some of the people who not only are readers, like all of us, but who goes to the added odd step of making videos. and then dealing with all the stuff that video makers deal with that comment leavers don't deal with. I've come to know a lot of those people. A lot of those people have come here. It's more than that. It's not just the shared experience of being on camera. It's the shared experience of being here. And I've commented for years how grateful I am for that. But really, it's just been in 2024 that I've really thrown a lot of emphasis on the whole of it, not just other creators, but all of you. And how amazing it is to have this conversation just going on, to have it mean something, to have it be so funny and yet serious at the same time, which is pretty much what I am. And that's a difficult combination. It's a difficult thing even to get people in the hyper-sanctimonious, hyper-censorious 21st century to even comprehend that those two things could happen in the same person at any time, much less at the same time. To be both serious and funny at the same time. Anyway, it's a long roundabout way of saying that in addition to a Q&A or the sheer number, the number of 18,000 or whatnot, I just wanted to say how grateful I am. This is incredible. This is an absolutely incredible experience. There are plenty of comments by people who, leave a comment and then I never hear from them again. Courteous comment, interesting comment, curious comment. But there are lots and lots of people who are just, they want to get involved. They want this to be real. And they make it real. That feels so wonderful. So I wanted to do a Q&A, but also a thank you. Just a very sincere thank you for this. So now that I've worked myself into a sentimental tizzy, I will log off, but I'll be back. Thank you.